She didn't leave angry. She didn't leave crying. She didn't even leave confused. She left confident. Confident that walking away from you was the right decision. Confident that life would feel lighter without you. Confident that happiness was waiting on the other side of that door. And for a while, it looked like she was right. She smiled more, she laughed louder, she told people she felt free, she said things like, I finally chose myself. She posted pictures that made it seem like her life had upgraded overnight. From the outside, it looked like relief, like empowerment, like she escaped something that was holding her back. But what you didn't see, what no one saw, was the psychological clock that started ticking the moment she walked away. Because when a woman leaves a man she once depended on emotionally, she doesn't immediately feel the loss. She feels release, release from routine, release from responsibility, release from accountability, release from the mirror you held up to her life. And that release creates a dangerous illusion that distance equals happiness. In the early stage, her brain floods with relief chemicals, dopamine from novelty, adrenaline from change, validation from attention. Everything feels exciting because everything is new. But here's the truth most people don't understand. Novelty doesn't heal emptiness, it only distracts from it, and distractions always expire. At first, she compares everything to how things felt at the end with you. The tension, the arguments, the emotional fatigue. So, of course, the new life feels better. Anything feels better than unresolved pain. But that comparison is flawed because she isn't comparing new life to the best of you. She's comparing it to the worst of the relationship. And that's how she convinces herself she made the right choice, but time has a way of removing noise. And once the noise fades, the truth gets louder. Slowly, subtly, things begin to shift, the excitement settles. The validation becomes inconsistent. The attention doesn't feel as meaningful. The freedom starts to feel unstructured. She notices silence more. She notices stress more. She notices the absence of someone who knew her rhythms. The man who checked in without being asked. The man who absorbed pressure so she didn't have to. The man who showed up in ways she never realized were rare. And this is where the emotional math changes, because happiness isn't just about feeling good. It's about feeling secure while you grow. And for the first time since she left, she begins to feel something she didn't expect. Unsettled, not miserable, not broken, just unsettled. Like something important is missing, but she can't quite name it yet. She tells herself she just needs more time, more experiences, more people, more proof that she did the right thing. But the problem isn't time and it isn't you. The problem is that she mistook emotional relief for emotional fulfillment. And those are not the same thing. Relief fades, fulfillment compounds, and the man she walked away from, you were providing something she only understands. Once it's gone, emotional grounding, the kind that doesn't make headlines, the kind that doesn't photograph well, the kind you only miss when life stops feeling stable. She didn't realize it yet, but the seed was planted. The happiness she expected wasn't growing the way she imagined, and soon something would happen that would force her to confront a reality she wasn't prepared for. At first, the discomfort was easy for her to ignore. She stayed busy. She filled her calendar. She kept her phone closed because busyness feels like progress until it doesn't. Slow nights began to stretch longer. The laughter felt thinner. Conversations felt repetitive, and the people around her didn't know her the way you did. They didn't anticipate her moods. They didn't recognize the silence behind her smiles. They didn't notice when her energy dropped or when she needed reassurance, but didn't know how to ask for it. And slowly the novelty wore off. That's when her mind began doing something dangerous. It started revisiting the past. Not the arguments, not the tension, not the moments she used to justify leaving, but the stability, the consistency, the emotional safety she used to live inside of without realizing it. Her brain started rewriting the story. She remembered the way you handled pressure, the way you didn't panic when things got hard, the way you stayed present when she was overwhelmed. And without meaning to, she started comparing. Every new man felt unpredictable, emotionally inconsistent, surface level. They offered excitement, but not reassurance, attention, but not reliability, interest, but not commitment. And the comparison wasn't fair, not to them and not to you, because you weren't competing with who she was dating now. You were being compared to the absence she now felt. This is where regret begins quietly, not as pain, but as confusion. She asks herself questions she didn't expect. Why doesn't this feel better? Why do I feel more anxious now? Why don't I feel as grounded as I thought I would? And here's the psychological trap she falls into next. She starts questioning herself. Was it really him that made her unhappy? Or was it her own restlessness, her own expectations, her own belief that happiness was something external waiting to be found somewhere else? That question terrifies her because if the problem wasn't you, then the solution was never leaving. And once that thought enters her mind, she can't remove it. She starts noticing things she ignored before. How few people actually show up when life gets heavy. How rare consistency really is. How many people disappear the moment things stop being fun, and suddenly your presence feels heavier in her absence than it ever did when you were there. She remembers how safe it felt to have someone who didn't flinch when she was emotional, someone who didn't need to be entertained constantly, someone who didn't treat her love like a temporary arrangement. And this is the moment the illusion of happiness begins to crack, because happiness isn't just about feeling excited. It's about feeling secure while life unfolds unpredictably, and now she doesn't feel secure. She feels exposed, unanchored, and quietly aware that the man she walked away from was providing something she may not find again so easily. But the realization isn't complete yet, because there's one final thing that pushes this understanding from thought to emotional impact. And it happens the moment she sees you change. The real shift doesn't happen because she feels lonely. It doesn't happen because she misses the relationship. It happens when she sees you, not the version of you she left behind, but the version of you that kept going. At first, it confuses her. You're calmer, more focused, less reactive. There's a steadiness in you that wasn't there before. And that steadiness does something dangerous to her mind because it tells her a truth she wasn't prepared to face. You didn't fall apart without her. She expected anger, bitterness, desperation, silence that felt empty. But instead, your silence feels intentional. You're not trying to prove anything. You're not posting for attention. You're not sending messages that ask for closure or validation. You're simply moving forward, and that's when the emotional gravity hits her. Because if you're okay without her, if you're growing without her, if your life is expanding without her, then the story she told herself starts to collapse. The story where she was the prize, the story where you needed her more than she needed you, the story where leaving was her upgrade. She starts replaying moments she didn't think mattered, times you showed patience when she was difficult, times you stayed when it would have been easier to leave, times you supported her emotionally without keeping score. And now she realizes something painful. You weren't holding her back, you were holding things together. And the absence of that is loud. She feels it in the instability of new connections, in the unpredictability of new dynamics, in the emotional inconsistency of people who don't invest the way you did. She begins to understand why peace feels so rare now, because peace doesn't come from excitement. It comes from emotional maturity, from reliability, from someone who doesn't disappear when life gets inconvenient. And that's when regret stops being a thought and becomes a feeling, a deep one, a heavy one, the kind that settles in her chest late at night when there's no one around to distract her from it. She wonders if she misjudged you, if she misunderstood what she had, if she confused comfort with boredom and stability with stagnation. And the hardest realization of all begins to form. The happiness she was chasing wasn't outside the relationship. It was inside it, but she didn't recognize it until it was gone. But even now, she still hasn't reached the deepest part because awareness doesn't hurt as much as consequence. And the consequence comes when she understands that even if she wanted to undo it, even if she wanted to go back, she may no longer have access to the man she left behind. This is where the realization becomes irreversible because now it's no longer about feelings, it's about timing. She understands something that hurts more than regret. Even if she wanted to come back, the version of you she left no longer exists. You didn't freeze in time, you didn't wait, you didn't stay emotionally parked hoping. She changed her mind. You adapted, you healed, you redirected your energy into building a life that no longer revolves around her approval. And that's what makes it unbearable because she doesn't miss the relationship, she misses the access. Access to your patience, access to your emotional availability, access to the safety she once took for granted. But access has an expiration date, and she crossed it the moment she assumed you would always be there as a backup plan. Now she sees you differently, not as someone she outgrew, but as someone she underestimated. She notices the way others respond to you, the respect in their tone, the space you occupy without demanding attention. And she understands something painful. You became more grounded once you stopped trying to be chosen. You stopped negotiating your worth, you stopped explaining yourself, you stopped proving your value. And in doing so, you became the very man she thought she could easily replace. That's when the regret deepens because replacement isn't about finding someone new. It's about finding someone equivalent, and emotional maturity isn't common, consistency isn't flashy. Stability doesn't announce itself, presence doesn't beg to be noticed, it's only felt when it's missing. And now every interaction reminds her of what she no longer has, not because you're perfect, but because you were real. You stayed when things weren't easy. You invested when the return wasn't guaranteed. You built something slowly while she was looking for something immediate. And now the weight of that choice settles in. She thought happiness meant leaving. She thought growth meant distance. She thought freedom meant less responsibility, but what she found instead was instability, uncertainty, and the quiet understanding that she walked away from something rare. And the hardest part, she knows you won't be coming back. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care about yourself more than being tolerated by someone who didn't recognize your value in time. That's when happiness reveals its final lesson. It isn't about finding something better, it's about knowing when you already have it. And by the time she understands that you're already gone, here's the truth that hurts the most. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because she didn't yet understand what enough actually looks like. She confused peace with boredom, consistency with stagnation, security with limitation. And by the time she realized the difference, you were no longer standing where she left you. You were moving forward, becoming stronger, building a life that didn't depend on being chosen by someone who couldn't see your worth in real time. She'll remember you not as the man she left, but as the man she misjudged, and that realization will follow her far longer than the excitement she thought she was chasing. If this message resonated with you, do one thing right now. Hit the like button so this reaches someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe for more deep breakdowns on relationships, psychology, and becoming the kind of man people regret losing. Because the most powerful transformation isn't proving someone wrong, it's building a life so solid that their regret no longer matters.